What's going on? Welcome back to the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast. Back at you fresh with another episode. We're at 50 next week, so stick around. We'll get something amazing planned for next week for the 50th episode. We've got some interesting topics to get into today. We're going into the tech world today.
We are these always have a theme every time we go into these articles and everything. So yeah, some really interesting ones to talk about.
Some tech layoffs to talk about. So there's more tech layoffs again this week. PayPal have cut 2,000 jobs from their workforce. So that's a BBC article. As the global economy weakens, we'll get into that entire sector. There's actually so many companies that have been laying off a lot of their staff. And there's actually a really cool website that we'll get into, and it shows pretty much every day there's a breaking news story about tech layoffs.
Yeah, literally every week. There's another company. When is it going to stop?
It's getting pretty wild. So we'll break down what companies are laying off, what percentage of their workforce, and the actual reasons why they are, and what kind of staff are getting laid off. Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting. We'll get into Snapchat. Did you know Snapchat was still kind of semi-popular?
No, I literally stopped using the app 3 years ago. I didn't even know if it was still a thing. I even asked some of the younger people I work with, I'm like, is Snapchat still a thing? And they're like, kind of.
I think there's a small pocket of people that still use it, but apparently Snapchat now has more than 2 million paid customers. So they have a thing called Snapchat Plus subscription service, where you get a few bonuses, little bells and whistles. So we'll touch on that. 2 million paid subscribers. I don't think there was that many users still, but their stock has actually plunged 11% due to one of their latest earning reports, which is pretty dismal, and it could be the end of Snapchat. Doomsday for Snapchat. TikTok is just wiping the slate clean for them. They're just not going to stick around anymore. But
no, I thought ever since Instagram got the filters and stuff for their reels, I'm why do you even need Snapchat now?
I know. Those bigger companies are just going to buy every little feature or copy it essentially and just, monopolize the entire social media game. So that's interesting. We'll get into streaming mandates. So Australia, I guess the Australian government wants Netflix and these streaming services to provide more or invest in more Australian-based content.
100%. And that's a really interesting thing because it's American-based, right? It makes sense if it's free-to-air TV or Australian-owned TV, but Netflix isn't Australian-owned. So why would they mandate that?
Or how do they mandate? That's an interesting point. And a lot of the Australian TV shows are kind of crummy and boring anyway. We watched Married at First Sight last night because there was just for a bit of market research, I guess.
Yeah, so you see what's out in the world these days, but it's not just Netflix. It's Stan, it's Amazon, it's all the other platforms as well that they want to try and enforce this mandate on.
Enforce more Australian content. So that could be interesting, and we'll touch on some, I guess, science news, some engineering news. Boston Dynamics and DHL have partnered to create a delivery robot, a hyper-efficient warehouse. It's a delivery one, or it's a warehouse worker?
It's a warehouse worker.
Right.
Yeah. It's called the Stretch Robot. I'm always really interested to see what Boston Dynamics do. They had the big dog robot, and they're always developing something that's kind of cool, but this is one that's actually going to be, it's built specifically for DHL and the warehouse.
So not one of these ninja dog things they create where they take over the world.
No.
Just something to post out your parcels sooner.
Take the heavy lifting.
All right, let's get into the tech layoffs. So this is by BBC News. Tech layoffs. PayPal cuts 2,000 jobs as global economy weakens. So PayPal's announcement follows tens of thousands of layoffs by technology giants in just the last month alone. On Tuesday, Snapchat, the parent company of social media platform Snapchat, they're called Snap. Warned that revenue for the 3 months to the end of March could fall as much as 10%. So basically, a lot of the companies are just spiraling downwards post-COVID.
Yes.
Because there was such a boom in online presence and social media, and everyone's just scrolling the feed 24/7. And now
they're all stuck at home, and there's not much to look at home other than a device of some sort. So
everyone's back at work now, and I guess less time is being spent on the platforms, which means less advertising dollars coming in, which means the revenue and the growth of these companies are slowing down, which means inevitably work cuts, or cuts to the workforce rather.
Yeah, well, wages is always the not the number one thing, but it's always one of the main things that they'll cut down to save money at the end of the day. So whether it's, there's only so much stationary costs you can cut down, really. So when it comes down to it, it's the people that have to go.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the people that are already there? Do they do more workload, or is it actually just less workload and they don't need them anymore?
It's the type of staff as well. So there's an article I'll bring up in a second about who's actually getting laid off and how long they've been, on average across all these companies, obviously, how long they've been working at the company and the types of roles they perform.
Right.
So it's cutting expenses down, right?
Yeah.
You can't just use both ends of the pencil. You pretty could.
I mean, if it's a pencil, you could. You can't use both ends of a pen.
You can't. You can chew on one end
You can chew on one end, and then ink will come out and it'll get all over
of
you.
your face.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the first person that you want to remove from your business. The guy with ink all over his face and his tie.
Yeah, probably not best suited for,
Gary, you've done it
company.
again. You've done it again. This is from the article. At the start of the year, Amazon announced it planned. This is Amazon announced it planned to cut more than 18,000 jobs because of the uncertain economy and rapid hiring during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, Alphabet said it would shed 12,000 jobs, and Microsoft said it up to 10,000 jobs would be lost as well.
Alphabet's the parent company of Google, right?
Correct. Yeah. Last week, Swedish music giant Spotify said it would cut 6% of its total, of its about 10,000 employees, so 6% of the 10,000. Citing the need to improve on efficiency. So there's just, I mean, we can go down the list for ages about all these companies, and we'll touch on them in a sec.
Mm-hmm. It's been going on for just
since probably November, December is when you started. Well, Twitter was one of the big first ones, right? And it's sort of been cascading since then.
Yeah, it's almost like he started doing it and everyone's like, sweet, we can start doing it. Because no one wants to be the first person, right? No one wants to be the first bad person, like cutting jobs or cutting down the whole like industry. So is there anybody going to be left in Silicon Valley? Hello?
So it's going to increase the unemployment rate.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh,
and
100%.
It's also like what companies are
going to be sweeping them up.
Yeah. If everyone else is already laying them off, like will it be the entire new sector of like, say, manufacturing, for example, swoops up those staff? Because we'll get into it that not a lot of them aren't like the most technical roles. It's kind of like a lot of bookkeeping type
right.
roles.
Because I was going to say, like, what sort of skill set they have? Are they the ones that can create their own startup company if they want to, or these are just
anyone can? It's the willingness to try.
That is true. That's very much a Yoda type thing just then.
Do it or not.
There is no try.
There is no try. So you can go to this website here. We're bringing up, if you're watching the YouTube version, the video version, you can check this out on the screen. And then we have the video version on Spotify. Drop us a like and comment and subscribe if you're on one of these platforms. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Layoffs.fyi. So just layoffs as one word, .fyi. You can see all of the tech layoffs since COVID-19. Got a bunch of like really nice graphs and data formation here. So you can dig into all the different companies and who they laid off. You can actually see the list of employees laid off.
Wow.
And if you wanted to, you could like approach them via LinkedIn if you think their skill set meets your business's criteria. So
I don't know how I
really
feel about that. I don't know whether it's like a good thing or a bad thing. Because
if you're on LinkedIn, you're going to want people to see your LinkedIn
that's
page.
True. Yeah.
They're not just like anonymous doxing of stuff or anything. So let me find an interesting graph here so we can get a better understanding.
Scroll up for a little bit. Scroll up a tiny bit. So that was the type of industry. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find like the most concise. So this graph here is based on date. So obviously the most recent layoffs, and then down towards obviously the oldest ones. So we can list a couple that we know and are aware of, right? So Pinterest are laying off 150. That happened yesterday on the 1st of February. DraftKings, 140. As we said, PayPal here, 2,000, which is 7% of its workforce.
Yep.
And you can see the corresponding article that sort of shows it all.
Right.
You can see the stage of the business, if it's an IPO, if it's a private business, the fall in stock price to correlate with the actual layoff of staff.
Very informative.
So there's so many different companies. Like this is a quite substantial one this week. Last week was Philips.
The healthcare Philips.
Yep, they make razors, not razors, but
toothbrushes and stuff. Yeah,
haircut machines.
Yeah, well, they actually make like actual medical devices and stuff as well.
Yeah,
yeah, but then they end up getting into the personal care business too,
and kitchen gadgets and stuff. They're based in Amsterdam. They laid off 6,000 staff, so 13% of its workforce. Groupon. The list goes on and on and on. Intel. So this is the one interesting graph.
Is that 50% from Groupon? No, that was the one above it. Okay.
No, so this graph here is based on dates. So this is the companies in reverse chronological order.
Gotcha.
This next one here is based on largest percentage of workforce laid off.
Ah, I see.
So obviously it's a table you can filter by ascending and descending. So you can see the number of laid off staff and then the percentage laid off. So Google has the largest number at 12,000.
But it's only 6%.
6%. It's a massive company. Followed by, let's go for the top 10, right?
Yeah.
Followed by Meta, which is 11,000 staff laid off at 13%. Microsoft, 10,000. Amazon, 10,000. Amazon again. Oh, they had 2 layoffs.
Wow.
So one in November, one in January.
So
18,000 in total. Salesforce, 8,000. Philips, we just mentioned. Booking.com,
that's interesting.
4,500. 25% of its total staff.
Wow. And that's a travel one as well, when travel's just starting to pick back up again.
And then...
Oh, was that in 2020, Booking.com?
Yes, this has been... That's an interesting point you just made there. Yeah, that was in July 2020.
So that's when COVID was like high. So then they had to lay off all their staff because no one was traveling.
So they might have acquired a lot of those staff potentially. Uber 2020.
Same thing.
Groupon 2020. So you can see the ones that were travel based or retail based were like had the biggest layoff. So this is just a really, really interesting website if you want to. I guess it's not really for like big business people, but it's more just to see the trends across the entire industry. Yeah.
Can you just go back? I'm just curious about the actual type of industry as well. So just scroll up a little bit.
Well, I can filter if you like.
No, just scroll up a little bit.
Scroll up.
Yeah. So that one there. So just 2022 is the green. For those again just watching, we've got a nice visual on the screen, and then 2020. So yeah, travel and transportation was like huge in 2020 because of COVID. And then this year
2021 was very stable while everything was like stabling out. They didn't know if it was on the businesses were on a rise or a decline. It kind of was light and stable, but now 2020 is when everything's like going to hell. Yeah,
transportation started rough, like more in 2022 as well. Retail, it's very, very interesting. Healthcare in 2022 is very interesting considering they probably would have had to employ a lot of people for COVID, and then as that sort of
So we'll get into that right now. Perfect segue. And again, under the last tab of this website, you can get into the types of layoffs and the staff that are laid off. A bunch of Google documents and stuff. So you can get into all that nitty gritty if you want to, but I guess it's just understanding the industry wide complexity and the patterns in why travel is down initially, and now retail or healthcare is down per se. I don't know why I used the word per se there, didn't fit, but I used it anyway. This next article sort of breaks down why people are getting shafted from the big tech world. This is from Sydney Morning Herald, and it hasn't shown my highlights, and it's going to probably lock me out because I haven't paid. Let me find the key points here.
It says no payment required, so you can do the toggle arrow down.
I did highlight these. Anyway, we'll get into it. So the most noteworthy element to let me skip through. You keep talking while I figure it out.
What if you the linear thing? What if you click the button up the top there on the side to see if it will pop up?
This?
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
No. Okay.
Keep talking.
So with all these layoffs and stuff, so obviously they just keep talking about the tech industry. So I can't even imagine all the other companies they're not really talking about. Obviously tech is like the biggest one, or social media is the biggest one because it's runs the world essentially now these days. So if you're Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, like the big four, obviously they're going to be reporting about it and talking about it. But if this is happening to the biggest industries, I can't even imagine what's happening to all the small ones or all the mom and pop shops that are out there closing down.
It depends how many people they hired during this period. So we'll get into this, right? So the tally grows wider on the... I'll start this again. This is we're on a roll, and then, we got it. The tally grows daily on the wider tech body count, which estimates now having reached a combined 150,000 in 2022, with another 68,000 in January this year alone. So, it's going to start getting up to like 250,000 people unemployed initially or laid off.
That's a lot.
It's no secret that the primary reason for big tech shedding staff was their enormous hiring spree during COVID. So that's the main problem. Everyone was hiring too much. Everyone's seen the big growth spurt during COVID, and you can't keep... Like, if there's not enough work to be done after that pandemic period, what's going to happen? They're going to get laid off.
It's the old what comes up must come down.
So the article from Sydney Morning Herald says, then came the post-COVID hangover. The US and global economy slowed and the music stopped. So Twitter actually increased its workforce by 53% over 2020 and 2021.
Wow.
So they increased they added a lot of staff to their what's that word you used before?
Workforce?
No,
Idlers.
Payroll.
Oh, payroll.
So they increased it by 53%, 2020, 2021, then cut it by 58% over the past year.
Right. Okay.
So, and then it goes into Meta hired 60% more staff during COVID and cut 15%.
So if they're, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, so just say Twitter increased by 53 and then cut 58%. If Meta's hired 60% and have only done 15%, like how many more?
Well, potentially Meta, there might be more coming, or they're expanding a bit more.
Gotcha.
Microsoft and Alphabet, which is Google, added close to 50% more staff and have slashed workforces by 5.5 and 7.7% respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely Twitter's like the largest example of the largest layoffs.
But that was also like Elon coming in and going, pew, 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 you're out.
Did what?
Pew, 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 you're out.
All right. So firstly, the median time that those recently laid off had worked for their company was 2.5 years. So the median time, some shorter, some longer. The middle, if they, how medians work, they laid out a bunch of the time frames. 2.5 is right in the middle.
Gotcha.
Which means that it's a last in, first out redundancy drive. So they're not long-term employees. They don't have years and years of benefits. They've come in for a short period of time. Obviously, they expected to have a longer career at these companies, ideally, but it's last in, first out sort of mentality. And
you've heard just some, like, I guess it's just a handful of stories being like, I've been at the company 15 years and I got fired. I'd be like, but how good were you at your job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what this point here gets into. It wasn't necessarily the junior staff who were shown the door. The median years of experience came in at 11.5 and almost half were aged between 30 and 40. So some people had been working there for quite some time.
Gotcha.
In the tech world where employees generally skew young, people with that many years of experience would be quite senior with higher salaries.
I gotcha.
So it's a salary thing.
Yeah. So
but you don't want to lay off one of your senior tech engineers or whatever role they have, and then have 5 dummies filling in the gap, right?
Exactly, yeah.
You got to be a fine balance there. It depends on the company and how much advancement they want to do.
And maybe that's why they could keep the percentage lower. They just happen to get rid of the people that just earned that little bit more.
So yeah, it's essentially when you're cutting someone, it's all about money. It's like a bit of it's about skill, but it's mostly about money. People can be upskilled, right? And yeah, so people with high salaries were potentially getting laid off. Curiously, this study found that the largest group of laid off employees did not hold tech jobs.
Oh, okay.
27.8% worked in human resources and recruitment.
Whoa. I guess because you have to have so many people recruiting heaps of people.
You're going to get recruiters to recruit more people.
Yeah.
And once you stop needing to recruit people,
you don't need HR department.
You don't need the recruiter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we're talking about tens of thousands of employees, not just like a small 20 to 50 person workforce.
No, so just say if your workforce is smaller, you don't need as many people working in that particular department. Makes sense.
Yeah. So again, the main 3, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft, that's where a large majority of their workforce got laid off, 28%. So nearly a third or a quarter at least. Additionally, I need to learn that word better. There is a suggestion that HR roles are increasingly vulnerable to replacement by AI. So it's taking over the roles that are, I guess, can be done by computers.
So the human resources role is taken over by
AI resource.
AI resources.
It's called AIR, air.
Air.
Yeah.
Oh, air resource. Air sources. Air source?
Let's not go with that.
No, okay.
It's HR, but run by AI. So,
well, a lot of that. So, like, just say if it is. So, like in HR,
it takes the personal subjectiveness out of it. It's a computer running an algorithm based on personality traits, previous performance. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a lot of it is data driven. So, like past experiences. There is like a human factor, I guess, if it comes to the other side of like performance management and things like that. But then you only need a small group of people for that anyway. But things like payroll and all that kind of stuff can be all automated.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
So they're keeping a lot of the tech jobs in there. Twitter and Google concentrated their layoffs in software engineering, which was overall the second biggest affected group, coming in at 22%. Marketing employees followed with 7.1% and customer service 4.6%. So yeah, I guess the roles that don't require the most in terms of payroll would be like marketing and just communications, customer service. They're all like quite entry-level jobs.
Yes.
As opposed to the advanced ones.
Yeah, so it'll just be like when people call up and be like, help, I can't Google something. And then they're like, have you typed in on the keyboard?
And the sad part is here, the bad news is that according to the sample group studied by 365 Data Science, only 10% have found another job since being laid off. And this is from literally yesterday, February 2nd.
So super recent.
Super recent.
No, 10% is not good. And I'm assuming a lot of it is American based, or is it more?
A lot of jobs. So data showed that most of the staff departures took place in the US, but many tech giants slimmed their workforce in other countries, including Australia. I know Twitter had quite a decent sized workforce here in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Just those the bigger sort of westernized countries, of their major cities, at least London, Australia, maybe Singapore,
just
something
all the
like
Western,
that.
Yep. Fair enough.
So yeah, tech industry down. Don't know if it's worth investing in. We don't really have any investing advice, nor should we.
No, we're not experts in that particular area. We're just trying to get up some savings to either buy a house or put into whatever kind of investments. We'll get there, but yeah, if they've only, I feel like this is only just the beginning. So it's just depending on how the recession goes and how the economy goes and how people are, I guess,
it's how they use the internet, because this is the internet.
It is.
Like social media is the internet.
100%.
There's other avenues of the internet, but a lot of it's just like photos and news websites. There's like social media is the internet.
Yeah,
so these tech companies and the businesses as well, like, Amazon and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on people start using the internet more. If they use it more or less, or there's different apps that surface up.
Yeah. So just say if you get like 2 jobs, right, you probably don't have time to be on the internet or anything like that. Like you're out there working, don't have time. So less traffic.
It's interesting, which brings us into the next article about Snapchat. Like I didn't realize it was still popping off, still around. Because it's like you said, I haven't used it since probably 2017, 2018. And
it was fun, like with the AR kind of stuff where you would, have the little, I don't know, like food or whatever, like pop out at you.
The dog filter is probably the most memorable one.
Yeah, the dog filter. But then they just stole that for like on your phone and stuff anyway. So I think you can just do it as like an emoji. And then you had I think we were talking about it in one of the previous episodes, like where it makes you look old or young, or it makes you look like a guy or a girl. Like you've got all those kind of filters.
Yeah. That's what Snapchat is, just filters.
Yeah. I'm like, I think maybe young people are still using it, but like Instagram's got all that now. And I think even TikTok's got filters,
so it served a purpose. It had a reason and a season.
Yeah.
People used it because it was a new and novel type of social media at the time, but now it's just been implemented across every other platform.
Yeah, it has. I think probably the one thing that sort of set it apart in the beginning was it wouldn't last that long, right? So it would time
24
out.
hours.
Yeah, 24 hours. And then I think eventually you could start downloading them or save them. And then I think that's probably where everybody sort of like shifted off.
It was hot for a second. I think even prior to when like DMs started becoming popular on Instagram. For a while, DMs wasn't like, it was there, but no one really used DMs on Instagram.
We used to talk on Snapchat. Like it used to be like,
or Facebook Messenger. Still is, but like IG DMs was not really a thing.
No, it wasn't, was it? Interesting. And then, people used to DM through Snapchat. And then I think, then Instagram started incorporating that in the Snapchat stuff, and then it sort of
and
went
then the
from
stories.
There. Yeah.
Snapchat has more. This is from TechCrunch.com. Snapchat has more than 2 million paid subscribers on its Snapchat Plus program, which is $4 a month as part of its way of diversifying its revenue pipeline. So you're probably wondering what Snapchat Plus subscription is.
Yeah. What do you get?
The thing is, up until this point, there haven't been that many apps that have required a subscription to get their revenue. They all run off ads like Facebook and YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm. To keep it free and to keep it accessible for everybody.
And now you have companies like Twitter who want to get $8 a month out of you for a blue check mark and for like a few bonus features.
Mm-hmm.
So to stay afloat in a world where obviously every tech company and social media company is like struggling to like get revenue and keep improving and keep expanding and staying relevant.
Fighting for the consumers' attention, right?
Relevancy and attention is what they're fighting for. Mm-hmm. They need every little feature they can get in order to keep people on the platform, because someone else is going to copy it straight away.
Oh, yeah.
So give a quick rundown of the Snapchat Plus subscription model and what it entails for $3.99
right. Hit me with it.
I'll run through it real quick, right? So custom story exploration. So when you post something, you can just choose a timer if you want it up for an hour or a week.
Oh, okay.
because if you're running like an ad or something, you can run it for a week perhaps.
That's pretty interesting.
So again, we'll run through these and you tell me if it's worth $4 a month, considering it's a dying platform. Custom notification sounds, so you can choose a specific tone based on the person, so you know who's messaging you. So you can ignore the ones that don't come through, or that come through and you don't like the tone.
Cool. I feel like that's not much of a plus feature.
Camera color borders, so you can add a colored border around the snap.
Not a good feature.
You can pin a friend as number one BFF, so just like prioritizing them on your little feed here, kind of not that helpful.
It just reminds me of like Facebook MySpace like top 10. 8. Yeah.
Snapchat Plus badge, so essentially like a Twitter blue check mark, but a star.
Right.
Story rewatch count, so you can see the number of times friends have rewatched your story. So if you're really concerned that people,
that'll be good for that validation type thing.
Validation, exactly.
Yeah, because you don't know how many people have like who's seen your video, who's gone onto your profile. Remember those little like hacks would be like, count how many people have actually clicked on your profile.
So we got colors, we got sounds, we got validation, we have more validation, we got ghost trails. So it lets you check the location history of your friends in the past 24 hours.
Kind of creepy.
So like, I know previously you could have like the GPS loose coordinates, but you can see like their routes of like what direction they're heading, sort of thing, or where their movements as opposed to a static.
I feel like that's a bit dangerous.
Right? Yeah. Exclusive Snapchat icons, so not much really there.
No.
Priority story replies. So if you're a Snapchat Plus subscriber, your replies to Snapchat stars, who are just Snap celebrities, will be prioritized and more visible to them. So you just like rank a little bit higher in their responses.
Yep.
You can post view emoji, so you can set emoji that will again. These are just little icons you can add to your words and your name and stuff. Like they don't do anything. Snapchat Web means you can use it on your web browser. So essentially, I think the main things are the choice of story length.
Yep.
And the priority replies. Realistically, they're the two most leverageable,
I think so,
attributes of this. So $4 a month.
I'd say probably it's only $4. So it's not like if you're a Snapchat fan, then 100%. Like if you're dedicated to Snapchat, then it's worth it. But for me, like I just feel like they had maybe 3 things. They're like, yeah, this will be awesome for a plus feature. I was like, all right, guys, what else can we do? And they're like, so what about a colorful border?
None of them were filtered on. None of them were based around the filters or lenses.
No,
it's all that was all the messaging component.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah, it was more the communication aspect. But yeah, I just feel like they're maybe short on ideas and like how to make it like more plus. So yeah.
Give them a blue border.
Yeah.
They'll pay for it.
Yeah. Like
dummies.
The time frame sort of makes sense, especially like you said, if you're a business, like we post on Instagram and stuff, it'd be awesome if we had like the promotion like last for 2 or 3 days rather than just that 24-hour period. So
you just keep slamming it, keep spamming it. So the social network first launched the Snapchat Plus in June 2022 in a bunch of countries. They're all the features that it provides. And apparently it's faring better than the original Twitter Blue subscription.
Original Twitter Blue?
Yeah.
So not the new Twitter Blue?
No. So they're comparing new data with old data, which is...
Doesn't make sense.
Concerning.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into like the actual stock prices that are like plunging at the moment. So like there's like a bunch of articles that came out this week about Snapchat. So one is, yay, we got 2 million paid subscribers. So what's 2 million...
Times 4?
So... 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 times 4, and then times $12 a month per month. So technically, they're making just shy of $1 billion. Oh no, it's 100 million. $96 million revenue a year based on that model.
Interesting.
If people keep paying for it for another 12 months, so that's a lot of money. But the alternative news that came out this week is that Snapchat, this is from Business Insider, Snapchat plunges 11% on ugly earnings and analyst warnings that issues are intensifying at the social media company.
Ooh, what kind of issues?
Oh, they're dead in the water apparently. Snapstock, there's too many snaps. Let's retake that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Snap stock plunged 11% on Wednesday after the social media company posted its slowest rate of quarterly growth ever. So the growth is slowing down dramatically, despite having 2 million paid
That's
subscribers.
not what you want. If you have like that dedicated 2 million coming through and it's still plunging, like that's not a good sign.
Jeffries, who is the
head honcho?
He dude's name's here, but I don't know what his role is, so we'll just roll with it. Jeffries slash Snap's 2023 revenue estimates by 2% and assumed 0% growth.
He's probably like the CFO, I'm assuming.
So 0% growth potentially this year. But that's all this article really shares. Like it's not looking great. Snap posted a loss of 288 million in the quarter, having earned a net 23 million in 2021. So that they basically from 2021 to 2022, based on that quarter, they grew like less than 1% or something. Like
Whereas
it was really,
like every other tech company like grew like exponentially during that time frame.
yes, but they're also doing layoffs. So it's hard to like collate all this information into one accurate thesis, right?
Right.
But the main thing is that I think Snap's gone this time next year. Not gone, but like
It feels like its days are numbered, right?
it has
Like
to be bought up by a different company.
Yeah, like something
maybe like
else.
YouTube or someone buys them up.
Yeah, like I could see that happening, but everybody's already incorporated like the best features, right? That's what all the big ones do. So Facebook or Meta and like YouTube, if they see something they like, they're going to just slowly incorporate it. Like, so yeah, so with Instagram, for example, they saw that Snapchat was booming, it was taking over, more people are using that platform and they're like, oh, we need stories. And I completely forgot that Instagram never had stories. It was just all photo based.
Yeah.
And then they started getting into that video format kind of thing. And they're like,
Remember IGTV was popular for a while, and that was the
Yes.
first vertical video, but it was never focused on short format.
no, people were still trying to do like long lives on Instagram. Far out. Like it's
IGTV.
IGTV. Like it's just,
It was only 5 years ago.
I know, but it seems like it's just everything moves so fast in that tech world, right? And then everyone loved the filters on Snapchat. So Instagram were like, let's put some filters on our one and sort of slowly incorporate that. So they're just stealing that or just giving people more of a reason to stay on their platform rather than switching apps and going into a different one. So
the main takeaway I got from that Snapchat thing is they're really focused on just the messaging community component.
yeah.
Not many other apps are doing that.
Well, not necessarily.
It's additional. It's an added bonus to a lot of these platforms.
Well, there was like a reason why Meta bought WhatsApp and stuff. There just seems to be this underlining feature of people just wanting to have that text-based conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like we're talking Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they've got it nailed.
Yeah.
Twitter, it's not really a common thing to be messaging in Twitter. Like it is a
No,
thing.
but it's text-based anyway, so people tend to have that conversation through like threads
Got
or
that.
through comments and stuff.
So, and then there's Google.
Yep. They're more of a search-based.
Well, they have YouTube.
Well,
so
yeah.
this is like one thing. That's what I'm saying. They might potentially. It's just one random idea I had on spur of a moment. Like, there's no messaging ability there.
Yeah, there's
And,
not a lot of engagement besides you've got your community tab in
Yes,
YouTube.
it's no direct communication.
And then, yeah, you can't DM people on YouTube.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you can jump on, if someone jumps on a live stream, you can chat to them, but who's doing lives all the time?
Yeah.
So, like, what if there was some sort of messaging functionality built into YouTube?
Interesting. Yeah, that way you can like get in contact with your creators.
Like, think about the thing where you're paying priority service to have your message rise to the top of a certain creator. Like, that would be super beneficial for like YouTube.
Interesting, because like YouTube Red is the paid for, YouTube Premium.
Well, ad-free
Yeah.
version. Yeah.
So just say if you have like part of that subscription, or it could be a subscription tier, is like having access to direct messaging.
Pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, because YouTube doesn't have that aspect. I mean, you can you can comment, like do comments and stuff, but again, it's not that behind the scenes personal interaction.
It's not a bi-directional
Yeah.
communication system. It's like watch, consume, post, but like it's not back and forth. Because I guess the more time you're in the DMs, the less time you're watching videos, the less ads you're watching, and then the less revenue YouTube makes as a whole anyway.
That's true. They don't want them switching off a video and going in DMs, but does being in the DM still consider being on the platform though? Which is interesting.
Pardon me. Unless they just have an ad scrolling whilst messaging or something.
Yeah, or just like at the bottom of the screen or
But
something.
yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. Like, we all want to communicate. So, like, where is that on Google? That's what my main question. Otherwise, Facebook and Meta, as it were, would just be dominating the entire
the
communication sector.
messaging, yeah, very, very true. Because yeah, if Snap Talk. Snap Talk. If Snapchat dies, then yes, because TikTok you can DM people, but I don't know how popular the DM aspect is on TikTok. So
Yeah.
very, very interesting.
Interesting times ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all kind of vying for vertical video,
Yes.
but like the communication aspect, something obviously they're all thinking about and working on. Like this is not like a revolutionary hot take, but yeah.
Well, they always talk about you got video, you got audio, you got text. Like you always you have to dominate one of those three or all three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of video,
Yes.
streaming.
Oh my gosh, we are so good with the segues today.
I know. You've done a bit of research on this, so you can push through this segment if you like.
Push through. That's fine. So,
Oh, you push, I'll pull.
thank you. Scroll down a little bit so I can read the beautiful
So
highlights.
this is from
there.
ABC News. Streaming giants to be required to make Australian films and TV under major rules shake up.
I thought it was
Potentially.
appropriate to use an Australian website for this one because there's actually heaps of American sites and stuff coming up. So it's not just like Aussie news. Like it's one of those things like if Australia starts pushing it, can England start pushing it? Can all these other countries start pushing it as well?
Okay, your highlights aren't showing for whatever reason.
But I can see the yellow on the side of the screen.
Yeah, they don't come up. It's just some sort of ad blocker or something's happened.
Okay,
It's fine.
all good. So streaming giants such as Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime will be required to invest in making, local Australian content under new rules set to be imposed on the industry. So from the mid-2024, the federal government will require the major streaming platforms to put some of their revenue back into the Australian content.
How do they put that into action? Like,
So
yo,
it'd be-
Netflix, we need you to put more money in. They're like, well, we have a budget and a spending based on like what we want to do.
So I think what would it come down to is, okay, so how big is their Australian audience? How much are Australians paying for that particular content? And then how much can they invest then back into the Australian economy? So just making TV shows in Australia with Australian actors and then spending the money within the economy.
Yeah, but like, where do they, like, yes, it seems like a good idea, but have they polled the Australian Netflix or streaming users about what they want? Or they just want more money circulating in the Australian market and the Screen Guild Australia or whatever it is.
They just want that. That's what it always feels like at the end of the day. Because it was one of those things. So one of the big things was when The Matrix was filmed here in Australia.
Power Rangers.
Yeah, Power Rangers. But yeah, when the Matrix was filmed here, it sort of started, and same as like the original Star Wars and stuff, like it was quite cheap. But then as Australia got more popular to film in because it was cheaper, they started rising up the prices and everyone just sort of stopped filming here because it was too expensive or Australians started to rort the...
Right, you could just build a set rather than paying
Exactly.
300 staff to fly over here.
Yeah, 100%. So details of the new policy is still yet to be negotiated with both the platforms and the Australian film and television sector, but the sector has previously argued for 20% of the revenue, which is really interesting.
So they want them to spend 20% of their revenue, I guess would be from the Australian consumers.
It would have to
couldn't be
be.
globally because that's
No.
just like,
That's pretty crappy.
we want 20% of your global revenue to go into Australian
No.
content.
So just like the Australian streamers and like I guess their subscription money.
That kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The streaming sector is already a significant producer of Australian screen content, spending more than $330 million on the local industry in 2021 to 2022.
Yep.
Wait, we're going to scroll back up. So there is no requirement that Australian content be there at all, and the percentages of what they're seeing with Australian content are way down on what traditionally was expected on free-to-air.
So I was reading that the Australian free-to-air stuff has to be, there's a quota, right? It has to be a
Yes.
minimum amount. And I think it's
100%.
55% has to be Australian original content.
It does. And that's an interesting thing to say considering like Channel 10, I think is owned by Paramount. Like a lot of the Australian broadcasting networks aren't Australian owned,
Yes.
which is super interesting.
So they throw on the, like, what's the most Australian thing you can do? It's just throw on the news, throw on reruns,
Yes.
cooking shows.
Mhm. It's like not the reality, but it's just more
game
of the live shows.
And then the rest is filled in with Bold and the Beautiful or Simpsons reruns.
Friends, like
The simple
Seinfeld,
stuff, right?
All the classics. The government wants to have the policy details ironed out by the middle of the year before introducing legislation later in the year, and the policy places in July 2024. So the Australian screen industry has been lobbying the federal government for a decade to place content rules on the streaming sector and has warmly welcomed news. So I'm assuming they warmly welcomed it because they just want more money in the sector.
What if they say no?
Well, that's like the next article after is sort of like...
What are their options?
Well, like if they say no, then what can the Australian government do? Just like stop people from paying for the platform? They'll just get like a VPN and watch it anyway.
Or like what? Like let's brainstorm here. What could they possibly do? They can't inflate the price because Netflix control the pricing tiers.
The only thing that they probably could do is maybe change the rating system or put like...
They could mess with I mean it's like spiteful, like weird business, political agendas, right? Like what can they really do to impact the companies?
They'll put like the mandate in place, and if they don't abide by it, then they'll just like fine them or, you know, do that kind of
weird.
thing.
Like, yep.
Yeah, so it's not a big ask for businesses that is mostly creating content in other markets and earning billions of dollars in our market to contribute to a portion of that earning back into the creating content that's localized. It's still its own investment in itself. But again, that's like you're saying, it depends if Australians want to watch Australian content.
Well, how much... They're just targeting the people that are making the big bucks.
Yeah.
Why not invest in some smaller creators or some smaller podcasts or YouTube studios or channels to be like, hey, we love your channel. We'll pay you to start a second channel and do, you know, like do a cooking series on a different channel. We think, I don't know, like who's the Mr. Beast of Australia? I don't know. Like why are they just going after like the mega bucks instead of like investing in
the people that
are actually passionate about making it, not forced to make it.
No, exactly. And if you're forced to make it, there's not going to be a lot of like good content and stuff in there. But they're saying they just want a little bit more culturally right. But I'm assuming they're just going to be pushing more white Australians anyway, rather than the actual proper culture.
Or like the Australians that are already in LA trying to get acting jobs. They're just going to, it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, we just got an Australian series.
Yeah. And always is like, oh, it's for the workforce. It's going to create jobs and all that kind of thing. They're always going to say that at the end of the day. But whether it's, and it depends, if people aren't going to watch the show, it's just going to get axed and all that's just going to get wasted.
The money's just wasted, the time wasted. It's
100%. Is there any risk to existing SVODs?
What's an SVOD?
I don't know. Let's have a look.
Streaming video on demand, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. Why does it make sense to have 3 different sets of Australian content rules, one for free-to-air TV, one for pay TV, and the third for streaming services?
Because they're different business models.
Yeah, so they're different business models and have a completely different aspect to it.
Why have different sets of rules for newspapers, radio, and websites? Like, what kind of logic is this?
Yeah, there's not a lot of logic into it. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Do you want to just go to the next article? So they've announced,
complain.
Yes, they've announced this, and then streaming services were just like, wait a minute. So Nine, Foxtel, and Paramount are all keen to point out that placing rules on their streaming services will mean they are subject to 2 sets of local content rules, one for their broadcast services and one for their subscription streaming services. So Stan has put in a submission to the government, and all these people have put into submissions. So they've like had their reply to the government as it was drafting a new cultural policy arguing their case. So this one's from Stan. So in order to avoid duplication of regulatory obligations, streaming services owned by the holder of a commercial free-to-air television license will be excluded from any sort of investment obligation. So pretty much they all say the same thing. So
which means what for the dummy like me?
So they're pretty much saying is like, we do already make content for Australians, so we think we should be exempt from the streaming regulations.
Okay.
Yeah. So Foxtel made a very similar case in his own submission. So as the Foxtel Group is already subject to Australian content obligations, we ask that Foxtel Group is excluded from the Australian content regime. And then Paramount sought its submission as well to ensure the content could be created to cover both local content rules and its streaming arm, as well as quotas on Channel 10.
Okay. So your point is like the free-to-air networks are like owned by the companies that already have the streaming platforms anyway.
Yes.
So they just want to have one singular... Oh, they don't want to create 2 rules. They want to just have independent...
Exactly. Yeah, so like we already
do what you're saying for free to air. Like
yes.
what? Like
we want to be excluded from the streaming services. So Netflix is the only one. Not Netflix is the only one, but like Amazon is the other one. Yeah.
Well, that don't have a stake in free to air TV.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So streaming services would inevitably seek to retain the best content exclusively in the effort to financially justify the investment imposts arising under the mandatory scheme. So yeah, all these people, because yeah, like I said, Paramount owns Channel 10, and that's one of the big Australian networks. you've got The Project, which is like a huge Australian TV show or news show. And then Netflix put in one as well. I think Netflix has highlighted productions such as Heartbreak High and Boy Swallows, Universe, Foxtel to show like 12 Stand. So yeah, they're always just saying that they are making some content already, which is
so how would they? So let's break this down, right? So they're basically saying the free-to-air TV has to have 55% Australian original content.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to reinvest, was it 20% of the revenue you make back into content?
Mm-hmm.
So what do? The options are say no, battle it out, abide by it, give in, make content that necessarily is not what the audience wants, or B, just spend years in limbo trying to like dwindle the percentage down.
Yeah.
They're just going to bite the bullet and just do the 20%, I think.
Yeah, well, they'll just I guess create a couple more, or they would have they'll put Neighbours on there or Home and Away on there and just have like old rerun type things.
They're going to spend 20% of their revenue. Think about the 20%.
Like royalties? I don't know.
You'd be buying up so much old content.
Yeah.
Think about how much revenue they would make. 20% of that, they buy every Australian soap drama there ever is and still have 10% left to spend.
Or they just try to remake the old ones because they remade a Heartbreak High, Picnic from Hanging Rock.
The smartest thing to do would just be like make one gangster show and spend all of it.
Like Game of Thrones, sort of like Sopranos.
Just spend all 20% on just like one or two hectic shows as opposed to 10 average shows.
And I bet there's heaps of like Australian screenwriters out there that have probably one banger show just waiting. I got the idea. You got it? Beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. But I also read an article yesterday.
Let me finish my idea.
Oh, sorry. You go.
Saw.
Like the horror movie?
You're talking about like the original Saw was written by like two Australian guys, I'm pretty sure.
Eli Roth is Australian, isn't he? No, it's the other dude that's Australian.
The original Saw movie.
Yeah, it's like Eli Roth and someone else, right?
I don't think it was Eli Roth.
Wasn't it?
No.
Who wrote Saw?
Saw franchise. Australian filmmakers James Wan and Lee.
Okay, I was way off.
Like they're technically Australian. Just get them to make a dope series about Saw. Sorry, I took you off track completely. But there's plenty of Australian film.
No, but you think like if you want it to be a dope series, right? Like I don't really see like a horror one being very commercially.
Oh, Netflix would pop off for sure.
No, like I know like Netflix might, but I'm just saying to be like super commercially available. Like just say there might be a particular genre that's more popular in Australia. Like make like a superhero one or.
What Australian superhero would there be?
Kangaroo Man.
Fucking Roo Man.
Roo Man?
Adventures of Roo Man. What about just the Skippy, the bush superhero?
No, I think they really tried. I think they tried to redo Skippy, right? And it was like a AI, not AI, but like a computer generated kangaroo.
What about let's just roll with Blinky Bill. Live action.
Because he was a bit of an adventurer, wasn't he? Because he would used to go off.
Blinky Bill live action.
Yeah, Blinky Bill Adventures. What about what was the one with like the rat and the cat and like they were like Muppets type things?
Feral TV.
Yes, that would be amazing. I used to love that show, Feral TV.
Listen to all the American listeners right now.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell?
It's called the Ferals.
The Ferals. But yeah, it was like these puppets, essentially, like Jim Henson style puppets, but they're all like rat baggy and just like super, well, feral in a way. And they had like just two human people. Yeah.
Feral TV.
Far out. This is like such a blast from the past.
Yep. It's like our scummy version of Fraggle Rock.
This is so 90s, man. Like, this is like super.
It's like feral Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, I think Blinky Bill's a better thing. I mean, what would be smart? Like, it's like just make a bunch of kid shows.
Oh, yeah. Like
educational ones.
Good, because you got Bluey, right? Bluey like popped off.
Yeah. Isn't that Australian?
I think Bluey. Oh no, they've got. It might be. Well, he's an Australian sheepdog.
Right. There's a lot of
cattle dog, but I don't know if it's an Australian show.
There's a lot of these animated shows are actually Australian based. I think. Yeah. I'm not going to get into that.
But the whole thing with the animation, right, is you could create it in whatever country and just dub over the voices.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Because it's just animated. It doesn't matter.
Just get a bunch of Australian voice actors. So
yeah.
Be interesting to see where this goes. Again, it's like they got like a year, like 2 years, right? Oh, it says 2024, so they got like 12 months to like really hunker down and see what works. And
See how it goes. But yeah, I saw what I was saying before was Spotify could be next as well. Like they want to, Australians potentially want to get into like, they call it the algorithm, obviously, but like promoting, because you know how it recommends you music based on whatever it is you're listening and stuff. So pushing more Australian artists and like Australian content.
They're just...
But like, how far can that go, really?
Exactly.
Like,
what if you don't want that?
I'm like, what do they make it on like a mandate on YouTube as well?
Exactly.
Like pushing more Australian content creators.
It's getting a bit far.
Yeah.
Like it should be meritocracy. The best rises to the top, not necessarily what gender or race or what country it's coming from. It should just be the best of the best.
Well, like, just think about there used to be a lot of British television, like British shows on Australian TV. Like, was that an issue? I think it's just because there's a whole bunch of American TV shows.
It's just more to choose from, and it's better because there's more people making it. So it's the best 1% rises to the top. There's just not enough here to have like the best 1% of Australian stuff still rises to the top. There's just less to choose from initially. So instead of having 100 things rise to the top, only one thing rises to the top because there's just less out there to choose from.
No, yeah, they're just going to make better content.
It's not censoring, but it's curating what's out there, or like funding things that don't necessarily need to be funded.
Exactly.
Until they're proven to be like a good idea or a good option.
Yeah. I mean, if you just want to like listen to Australian music, just like listen to Triple J. They're always pushing that stuff.
Yeah, you can just Google Australian music if you want that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Australian music, Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, very, very Australian, I feel like. Even greater segue.
Good segue.
No. But I'm always interested in robots and like sort of like the tech.
You live with one.
I do. I do. Sorry, that was a really bad laugh. But I'm always interested in like Boston Dynamics and what do they do? Because I think we talked about it not long ago, or I don't know, it feels like a couple of months ago. But yeah, with this particular one here, did my highlights work for this particular article?
Yes.
So pretty much Boston Dynamics and DHL. So I don't even know what DHL stand for, but they're like a delivery company. They're like a warehouse. And so just say if you have a business and you need things posted or delivered in bulk, like DHL, the middleman, they will have a warehouse. They'll store your stock.
Yep.
They'll deliver it out to the individual stores or individual retailers.
Yep.
Yeah. So with this one here, so they've got a hand loading and so
the hand
loading and unloading of boxes is antiquated as it sounds. It's commonplace in shipping in industries from groceries to apparel to the return operations for most consumer goods. So it's just a very old business model.
It's just a labor-intensive job, loading, unloading, double handling. It can be automated basically with some sort of robot. Yeah,
for sure. So facing a labor shortage and high turnover in these kind of warehouse jobs, because it is very labor-intensive, a lot of injuries and stuff can happen. It's not the easiest job to do because like some boxes would be so heavy, or it could look like a tiny box and be I mean, you've worked in a warehouse where, well, not a warehouse, but you've worked having to pick up boxes and stuff.
Well, it was a house and it did wear on my soul.
Another really bad laugh, sorry.
Yeah.
But like, you'd lift up, like boxes and stuff, and you like twist and you can like injure yourself real easy.
Tons of OH&S potential.
Yeah. So with the high turnover in these kind of warehouse jobs, DHL supply chain turned to robot makers Boston Dynamics to come up with a solution, which is really interesting. So together they have co-designed Stretch. It's a new mobile robot with a suction cup covered arm capable of picking up and moving 50-pound boxes. How much is that in kilos?
We do all the Googling work today.
Thank you. So 50 pounds to kilograms.
24.
23. Yeah.
It's not very heavy.
But that's like a two-person lift though.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
There's a kettlebell in that room that's that much.
No, that's for exercising. But like in a workplace, they have like certain mandates for lifting.
Yeah. Cool.
So picking up 50-pound boxes from the backs of trucks, trailers, and into warehouses. So it's been in developed for like heaps of years. They've tested a few different versions.
So I guess the most unique part is the suction cups on this thing.
Yes.
You can Google it or you can watch the video right now. There's like essentially a huge robotic arm with a huge 8x8 like lot grid of like these weird suction cups.
Yep.
That would suction the boxes.
Yes, and it needs to be like quite like the suction cups need to be like quite large because all the boxes and stuff are going to be different sizes.
Which is counterintuitive to how you would normally pick something up.
That's a suction cup.
No, but like think when you pick a box up, how do you pick it up?
From like the bottom.
Underneath.
Yeah.
So if you're just like a dummy like us,
yeah,
and you're sketching out on paper some kind of machine to pick up boxes.
You'd think like a
it's just like
forklift,
a little
right?
forklift tray. This is from the top.
Yes.
So there's nothing ever on top of the top. So
No.
the top is always
On the top.
available to be, like there's always a surface area on the top to get
Yes.
attached to.
Which sort of
That's
makes sense.
pretty smart.
Well, because like it's the whole, if you wanted to scroll down with the article for where it was, so
So
keep
it
going
can
back
flip
up.
to its side?
Yeah,
That looks
so-
like a good massage machine.
Get back to my
Look at that.
highlights.
Imagine that massaging your...
know.
Okay.
Shush. So one of the big challenges that they would have had is, so with these particular robots and stuff, dexterity is never a huge thing, right? So being able to, and like when you have a warehouse and deliveries, all the boxes are going to be different shapes and different sizes.
Yep.
So it'd be hard to have like a forklift type machine because you don't know where the base is because they're all different sizes. But like you're saying, there's always going to be a top. So that's probably the most stable sort of way to get like a good algorithm going to be able to, or machine learning, sorry, to be able to pick up the boxes
Repetitive
and stuff.
tasks.
Yeah.
Yep.
So previous robots built by the company included a humanoid Atlas and the dog-like Spot. So this is from Boston Dynamics. Have found uses in the industry ranging from, are you going to the,
So
look at Atlas.
Atlas is that running dude.
Yes,
And
that-
then Spot would be the dog.
Yeah, so Atlas is the one that you see that's always jumping those boxes in that warehouse or doing
Yeah.
like the parkour sort of like.
Yeah. And Spot's the dog version.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yep.
Have found industries ranging from utilities to construction to law enforcement. So Stretch will likely be used in a variety of settings, but Boston Dynamics isn't rushing to adapt to other tasks or industries because like this particular robot Stretch was built specifically for DHL. Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, like you're saying, so one thing that if you keep going, I can keep reading. Sorry. The rise of the e-commerce has caused a boom in the amount of smaller shipments, according to Brian Gaunt, our Senior Director of Accelerated Digitalization at DHL. What a role. Accelerated Digitalization at DHL Supply Chain. So instead of a forklift-able pallet or of beer cans or bike wheels, a growing proportion of what's being shipped are single cases of a specific kind of pants, or single packages fulfilling a one-off orders from online sales.
So, yeah, it's basically saying the warehouse is like a 3PL, a third-party logistics company.
Yes.
It's not all the same uniform box.
No.
It's like if you were an Amazon FBA seller,
Mhm.
or Amazon warehouse can pick and send orders from a bunch of different sellers if they're selling a book or pants or this,
Yeah.
that, the other. It has to be versatile enough to differentiate different types of boxes and different types of packages and weights and this and that. So I guess it's the flexibility that's required or being able to like be produced by this particular robot and how it picks things up.
Exactly. And it would be smart actually for Amazon to do something like that. So Stretch evolved from an earlier warehouse-focused robot called Handle. So a two-wheeled bot that could pick up boxes from a pallet, carry and place them on a warehouse shelves. And the machine was adept at picking up boxes and even combining oddly shaped boxes into neat stacks on pallets. But Blank Spore said the speed couldn't compete for that of human workers. So that whole dexterity things. Oh, that's super interesting.
It's
So
like a
they
little emu.
Yeah. Does look like a little emu. So yeah, so this one's on wheels. So it could pick up like a small suction cup and then put them on top of each other. But see how the boxes are generally all the same size anyway?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can just Tetris them up.
Yes. And that was one of the things that they realized with their conveyor belt from the image that we saw earlier was that's helped speed up the process. Because with human workers and stuff, obviously they can rush and be a bit faster, but with the machines, they tend to have one or two speeds because they're following a computer program in a way. But with humans, they sort of can be like, oh, I can avoid this box.
So what can we learn
here.
from this as a small business operator?
That humans can get injured and
Yeah.
that costs the businesses money a lot of the times. Or with humans, you have variables like people getting sick or things like that. But like with robots, yes, they might be a bit slower, but you're going to have that consistency and you're going to have that steadiness of that workflow regardless. So you'd probably be able to, I guess, not finance, but project the money a little bit better, knowing exactly how they can perform and what they can do.
It's automating the unnecessary laborious tasks.
Yeah, like the things that people just struggle to do or don't want to do. So Stretch can unload an estimated 350 boxes per hour, a rate at which DHL expects to improve as a robot's machine learning algorithm and computer vision gets better at understanding the puzzle of trucks stuffed full of randomly sized boxes. So, and this took years of design to achieve. So I think the biggest issue they have at the moment is being able to recognize those different size boxes and then what being able to do with it. Whereas a human can look at it and be like, oh, it's a different size, I can put it here.
Yes. Weight is a different story though.
Yeah.
But you'd imagine there'd be some sort of it's a little QR code or barcode that would, like, as it approaches the box, you could just scan them and then cater the suction cups or the weight or the size measurements in a split second. A human can't do it in that fast of a time frame.
Yeah. So it can spin around. But yeah, so it's still not clunky, but it's a robot. It goes quite slow. But I can see how it can.
It's also it moves fast, but it's slow where it needs to in terms of like where the damage can occur, the pickup and the drop off. The movement itself is as efficient as it can be.
Exactly, but the picking up and the dropping off
has to be a touch more sensitive.
Yeah, I can see where they unload trucks super quick or loading up trucks super quick.
Yeah, you just dropped the box, buddy.
Oh no!
So now can it figure that out and then come and get it? That's not.
No,
it's then it just runs over the box that it left behind.
Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, no. So capable of moving boxes roughly 12 seconds. It's likely far to outperform a human doing the same repetitive labor, which raises questions about just how many jobs it will eliminate.
And you can do it for 24 hours a day.
Exactly. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it doesn't need Christmas off or anything like that.
The cartoon M&Ms are retired now?
Apparently.
Ad.
An MIT study looking at the data from 1990 to 2007 found that each robot added to the companies in the manufacturing industry ended up replacing an average of 3.3 workers nationwide.
All right. So we're losing all the HR jobs in tech.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to AI. We're losing all the warehouse jobs.
Yes.
We're losing all the construction jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What jobs are left out there?
Well, even lawn care is going to be the next thing going because you can get a Roomba. Care? No, you can get a Roomba and do the lawns for you.
I think it's going to be struggle times.
Yes.
Potentially, not like necessarily straight away,
mm-hmm.
But in terms of the next decade, it could be anything.
Yeah. Anything at all.
Anything at all. Like, it's just going to replace every single job you can imagine.
Well, there'll always be things when it comes to, like, I guess that human interaction that you can't replace. But, like, with those manual labor jobs, I mean, there was that huge thing, like, this is like, like a decade ago, like the machines in automotive. Oh, you're right. You always dropped your microphone. In the car industry, right? So in the factories and stuff. So they've automated a lot of that. And there's a lot of machines and robots that, will build a car for you rather than having the humans do it. So, like, I can understand like why companies might do it because people are expensive because it's people, right?
It just means we have to be more skilled or be in search of better, like upskilling basically is like the most important.
Yeah. Or not changing with the times, but realizing what trends are, what's going to become like, 10 years ago, there probably wasn't like online jobs, right? Like working online or
changing with the times does work, but like by the time you catch up to get up to speed, if you're only like doing something part-time and trying to learn a skill in your spare 3 hours, by the time you get up to speed and do your 10,000 hours, the industry's changed again anyway, and you're playing chase, grab ass the whole time with
grab ass. Yeah. So I think the only thing that you sort of can really do is, I guess, invest in yourself and your own knowledge, right? Your own self-worth. So,
well, at a certain point, you just gotta. It's hard to know what to do or what to learn, and you can't judge or guess the future. Who knew like all this stuff would be? It's not like people are going to be passionate about working in a warehouse.
No.
But if you're like, you don't really have that many prospects, but you get a decent job in a warehouse and you want to work up the ranks, so then eventually your job is either replaced by AI in terms of like the admin or the HR side of things, and then like the actual warehouse job is replaced by robots. Like for those people, like it's going to become a sticky situation in the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting, I guess, to see. I know there's probably some data and stuff on it, like where jobs are needed or what industries are performing well. But again, like you said, like who's going to say that they're going to perform well in 5 years' time? Because 2 years ago was the tech industry, right? They were performing well. They were where the jobs were at. But now 2 years later, it ain't them anymore.
Well, it will be us here next week on episode 50 of the Look Mum Hustling podcast. We'll see you then.